truth.
Hello, and welcome to Word of Truth Podcast. Our mission is to shine the light of biblical truth on the questions of life. Hosted by Stephen Brown and Stone Anderson. Enjoy the show.
Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is true. Yeah. Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is true. Yeah. Word of truth.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 5th episode of Word vs. World. I'm your faithful co-host, Stone Anderson, and I'm here with Stephen Brown.
Hello.
Some topics we'll be discussing today. Well, actually, we'll be discussing, the main topic is America. So, what is the shape of America? How should Christians live in today's America? What is maybe the future of America? And we may even go into some controversial top.
What you're saying is we need to open up with a word of prayer, maybe?
Yeah, we probably should, because we may need it.
Yeah, this is going to be a hard one, man. A hard one. Do you have anything that you personally want to start off with, or no?
Let's start off with the shape of America.
Well, hey, let me suggest this. Are you a patriot?
Yes, I'm a patriot all the way.
100%. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Do you love your country?
I love the land, and I love the old country.
Yeah, I know
love
we was going to have to
America.
define the country.
I don't love what's going on today.
Yeah, but it's because your patriotism that you don't love what's going on today.
Yes.
Right? It is because of our love for our country that we want to save our country. We want to spare it from the judgment and the sin and things. And so I just wanted to say that, and then we will get into what you was going to get into. We love the land and the people and the values and all of the things that we sort of once were.
Yeah, we are in no way anti-America.
No, I'm not.
I'll die for,
No. In my opinion, America is still the best country in the world, man. I mean, it is. Even though we've fallen a long way, and we're going to talk about that. I still believe, of all of the places that I know of, I don't want to go anywhere else, man, and I don't want to take anything for granted. But, more than Americans, we're Christians. We're actually Christians first, then Americans. Because if America goes totally, the way of Babylon, we must maintain our Christianity. And so, all right, get into it.
All right. Present day America. How would you say what shape is America in right now? Because if you ask me, we've been on a downhill slide, and I know a bunch of this just from hearing people talk, like my grandpa or maybe you. I've only really started keeping up with this stuff for like 2 years, 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to me like America, it has been on a downhill slide, and now it's picking up speed, and it's just flying.
It's definitely a snowball effect, falling faster, and when it finally hits something, it's going to shatter to a million pieces. But what I would like as a thought experiment to think about and invite with a serious invitation the listener or the viewer to think about is if George Washington or Thomas Jefferson could be raised from the dead and brought to modern day Washington, D.C., and sat right there on the Capitol lawn looking at the Washington Monument and was able to see the whole nation in the current state that it's in, what would they say? Would they say, this is what we hoped y'all would become? Or would they say, I'm severely disappointed in the direction y'all have taken?
I really feel like it would be the latter.
Yeah. Okay, this is kind of why I'm saying that. We're going to say some things tonight that there's going to be a lot of haters that just will hate on that. Who knows? We may even end up in jail, man. I don't know. But I believe with all my heart, Stone, I mean it with 100% of my being, I believe that if George Washington could come and take up the office again today as president, he would say, I am severely disappointed with all of the decisions that y'all have made, and that this is not why I fought. This is not why I bled. This is not why
we
led.
migrated to
This is
America.
not why we come here. This is not why we gave this Constitution. This is not why we worked to build this, this whatever. All of this, the moral infrastructure, the physical infrastructure, all of the things. I believe that George Washington will stand by my side, and I also believe that if he could be raised from the dead and brought here and dropped down to downtown New York City and say whatever he'd want to say, they'd say, you're not a patriot. And he'd say, I'm the first president of the United States, man. There was never anybody more patriotic than me. Or Jefferson or any of them, man. Madison, all of them. I think that today they would be accused of being unpatriotic or whatever, and they're... Well, let's all right. So you started to say something. I cut you off. I'm sorry.
I don't remember.
Well, you was talking about the current condition of America. Oh, the downhill thing
and what's happening is we have been doing this for a while. I mean, I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure in most places you cannot take a Bible into school. At the very least, you're not allowed to pray.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they took prayer out of schools a long time ago.
When you start removing God from the culture and from the families, and people start throwing God out the window, it's never, ever, ever going to go in a good place. Because I bet you money, Sodom and Gomorrah didn't start out as Sodom and Gomorrah. At some point, people threw God out the window and lived the way they want, and then their kids did. And then the next thing you know, there's not even 10 righteous people in an entire city, and God has to send flames.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's happening to America.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Are you saying, just put you you're in the hot seat. Are you saying America has thrown God out the window?
I do believe so. As percentage-wise, more has than hasn't. And there's a lot of God-fearing patriots out there.
What you just said right there, the way you started parsing that out, percentage-wise, more have than hasn't. That's why we have to qualify what we say. I wish that I could just say, oh, I just love this country wholeheartedly. I wish I didn't have to say, I love the people in the land, but there's this whole value system that's migrated in that I don't. I wish I didn't have to qualify it. I wish I didn't have to sort of say, oh, I love this part, but this part I'm not digging too much right now. I wish I didn't have to do any of that. But the truth is, I agree with you, man. And if we actually look at the cumulative case, it's not just that we have took God out of schools and prayer out of schools and began to teach man from monkey evolution.
And you can be whatever gender you want.
So it's not just we took the 10 Commandments out of the courthouses. It's not just that we took God out of the schools by taking prayer out of the schools and talking about Jesus. We took that out of the schools. We also put back into the schools the heart of a paganistic way of thinking, evolution, worshiping the creature, looking at a monkey as your great-grandfather or whatever. And then we took out the biblical concept of marriage and family, and we put back in transgenderism, the LGBT whatever community.
It's all just twisted.
Yeah, we took out the sanctity of life. We put in abortion and murder of babies. We took out, dude, I could probably talk about I could probably just do that. out, in for like an hour.
Or longer.
Yeah. And so here's the problem. When we say the term America, counted in that word is the American government. You see what I'm saying? And it's the American government that I'm disappointed ain't the word, man.
Against?
I despise it. And that will get a man thrown in jail faster than
Let me just stop you right there. Earlier, I started to say I will die for this country, and I stopped. I will die for this land, and I will die for most of the people in this. I mean, in all honesty, I'd die for just about anybody. I hope. But I'm not going to die whenever I stopped. I only stopped just so everybody out there is like, oh, he wouldn't die for his country. He ain't a patriot. I will die for my country, but
not for the values that they currently put forward.
For protecting what rights we still have. the rights we hold to.
Yeah, see, that's what dying for your country used to mean, is you're dying for those values, to protect those values, to keep that morality intact and that love for your fellow man intact. That's what it used to mean, and now they're just like, no, you got to just die for your neighbor or whatever, which even a Christian is in a lot of ways kind of called to do that. And so, yes, we would put our lives on the line. I believe if the time comes, who knows, but I believe that I'm willing to put my life on the line to save my fellow man, even just from getting run over by a car or whatever, But to say that I'm going to suit up in my military gear and go
fight America's war.
Fight.
They're not even
to
just
protect
wars.
Values that I think are the very destruction of this country.
No, not happening.
It's not right. And now listen, I know, man. This is in this category of things is where the heaviest, the most amount of propaganda has been put on us since we were born. I mean, the America pride and America first and this dying for the country and all that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of good in all of that. I'm not knocking all of it, but that has been the propaganda that comes along with that, man, is so ridiculously much, even more than evolution. America first type thinking and all that is even more than evolution, so much so that if we in any way hint that we're against what's going on, you're an extremist, you're a terrorist, you're a radical, you're a supremacist, you're unpatriotic, you're all these kinds of evil things. And so what I want to do for the Christian out there that's actually sincere about his faith is I want to point some things out. Before I do you have anything you want to say before I do?
I just was going to say, we are not anti-veterans.
Oh, Lord, no. No, man. I mean, the country that I would die for in my heart even is the 1950s America, man, the World War II vets, and even, the Vietnam, all those wars that meant something. I don't even know what the wars that we fight now mean. Because one day we fight for Afghanistan against them. The next day we're trying to help them. And then the next day we're back against them. And we're from one clan to the other, from the, Muslim Brotherhood to the Al-Qaeda over here. We're doing one thing after another, after another, after another. And the whole world is accusing us of it actually being a money and oil racket. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. I'm not even making that case. I'm just saying the wars themselves, I honestly don't know what they're for anymore. They're not for we're not fighting wars of morality. It really does just look like America is fighting wars of economy, or control. There's not. I mean, in a lot of ways, they'll do it under the guise of liberation or helping the poor man.
But you just look at our government; they don't give a rip about the poor man.
Yeah, it's only to the extent that it'll buy them a vote. So, in a sincere way, no, there's no care. Mm-hmm. There's no care. And another thing too, man, that we got to keep in mind: every time you say the word government, the government is people. It's a group of people. That's all it is. If they all went home, there is no government. I mean, we have governing systems and we have, a constitution, all that kind of stuff. But the wicked part of the government is the people. And when you have this sort of level of corruption that has entered in, that I really believe the founders did everything that they could to prevent what has happened. But when you have this level of corruption come in and you have all these wicked people, who could support that, man? I mean, it's wicked as could be. Okay, but for the Christian out there who's like thinking that we're just a bunch of backward, hillbillies or something, I want you to think for just a second about Babylon in the Bible. And you may not know, but in the Bible there's 3 Babylons. The word Babel in Genesis chapter 10 is actually the same exact Hebrew word as Babylon. It's in the Bible something like 70 times. I haven't even looked this up in at least a year. But sometimes the word is translated as Babel, as in the Tower of Babel, and sometimes it's translated as in Babylon, where Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon was. But even in Daniel, where Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon is talked about, it tells you that it was in the same place as what the original Tower of Babel was. And with the original Tower of Babel, when you have men sort of united in one mind against God, it says they built a city and a tower that may reach unto heaven. And all I'm really getting at is there we can see they had a tremendous amount of pride. There's no doubt in my mind that they were like, look at what we have accomplished. Look at what we have done. Look at what we have built. Look at how tall this is. Look at how great. Because we always call it the Tower of Babel, but actually the Bible itself says the city of Babel. They left off to build the city, so it was a whole city. And there was a lot of sort of national pride there, I'm sure. But then we come down to Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon. Are you familiar at all with that ancient city?
Not really. Not enough for the podcast anyway.
Yeah. One of the 7 wonders of the ancient world is the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. It's Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon. The Babylon in the Old Testament that's most of the time talked about, truly, man, would be one of the tourist centers, attractions of the world today. I mean, they had structures, cities. It's very much like modern day America. Babylon itself would be comparable to the District of Columbia or Washington, D.C. But then you had the immediate land, the kingdom of Babylon, which would be very much like the United States of America. But then you had the empire of Babylon, all at the same time, I'm saying, which would be just like we have influence and bases in like 90 countries. We have people and influence all over the world. So we are, in a lot of ways, we're an American empire. We're not just a country. We are an empire. And that's what Babylon was. And you can read it in the Old Testament. They had a tremendous amount of patriotism for their Babylon. It was the greatest country, empire, whatever, land. And it really was. It was a fruitful plain. And they had a tremendous amount of pride in what their nation had accomplished and the heights that they had achieved and the walls and all of this, the fortified cities, and truly something we would just be amazed by today. And then you have in Daniel chapter 2, the president of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, the king. He has a vision or whatever. And then in chapter 3, he builds this image. Now I want people to stop and think very seriously about what I'm about to say before they just pull out the gun and shoot me. He orders the construction of this image. And we think Babylon, that was just a sinful pagan place. I'm telling you right now, there ain't a dime's bit of difference between ancient Babylon and modern America. Okay, because they were both given over to sin and in the sins of the body, sins of marriage, corrupted marriages, not between a man and a woman, and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to get away from using all of those LGBT words because I'm just sick of it. But they had done all of that kind of stuff. They had brought in all kinds of idolatry and false gods, all the exact same stuff that America has done today. Well, then the king builds an image, and he makes a very simple command that whenever the music plays, you bow down to the image or be killed. That's it.
Sounds kind of familiar.
Sounds very familiar when you start looking at it through spiritual eyes. And so then the king does a real propaganda move. He gets all of the governors and the captains and the magistrates and all of the princes and all of this, the chiefs.
Probably the war heroes.
Yes, exactly. The people of popularity, the political players, the people that had sway. He gets them all out there. You can read it for yourself. It repeats it twice in Daniel chapter 3. He gets them all out there on the front lines, and they all are kind of speaking to the people or whatever. And he makes a decree, and they're announcing it, and it says a herald says aloud, so a person kind of yells out, whenever anyone hears this music, you got to bow down to the image. And so they did a whole mock-up ceremony. You think of like an inauguration event or whatever, and they play the music, and everybody bows down or whatever. Well, then, I don't remember if it's in that same chapter, or if you turn the page or whatever, but Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't bow down.
And so they cast them into the fiery furnace.
They cast them into the fiery furnace. I want you, on the spot, you tell me, are there any parallels there between what they were doing and what we do in the United States today?
Okay, well, most of the time when you salute the flag, whereas to when they bowed, music plays. Also, like you see, like at football games and stuff. Sometimes the president himself will be there, and a lot of you got military guys and all the coaches and bigger, more political people. Mm-hmm. Not to mention every single person in the stands, and they're all taking their hat off and saluting the flag.
You place your hand on your heart. Yeah, soldiers will stand and salute. All of the civilians in the crowd, you take your hat off. Why do you take your hat off?
Because it's a reverence kind of deal?
Yes, because historically, traditionally, in the United States, they have, anytime you step into a holy place or a holy ceremony, that's why men don't wear their hats at church. And if a man goes into his closet to pray, he was taught from a child, take your hat off when you pray. Now, I actually don't even think that's what the Bible means when it talks about a man praying with his head covered. But because they think that's what the Bible means, that's why those men take their hat off.
Okay.
Go ahead.
In a way, the American flag is something to be respected.
Well, yeah.
But it's not holy.
It's not holy.
It'll never be holy. It's just fabric, if we're being honest.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's where we get into the problem. And I know that stinking Colin Kaepernick has ruined this for any person that has a spiritual position, because he, this football stuff, they went out there and they wouldn't do the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever, but they done it for a totally different reason than what we're talking about. They were in rebellion. They were, they had nothing to do with a spiritual frame of mind for them. But several years ago, in fact, long before the NFL even done that junk, I personally started, when I was actually studying the book of Daniel, and then I was studying Revelation chapter 13, which I'm going to bring up again in a minute. And I started, by the Spirit of God, I started being able to sort of see things through more of a spiritual eye. And I realized, oh my Lord, we do the exact same thing to a T. If you took Daniel chapter 3, ripped that page out of the Bible, and held it up over your TV, just tape it over the TV while you're watching the Super Bowl halftime show. You tell me if that Super Bowl halftime show ain't Daniel chapter 3. You got the stinking president out there, and all the magistrates, and the judges, and the local princes, and the cops, and the soldiers, and the heroes, and you got the great singer. And when the music plays, it's a command. Everybody, you stand up, because we would say, oh, they was told to bow and worship the image. Well, wait a minute. What greater act of worship can you do than stand up, take your hat off, you put your hand on your heart, and you say, you're basically pledging, even when you're not pledging allegiance to the flag, by doing this whole ceremony during the music.
That's what it means.
That's what it means.
Yeah.
Yes. It's to a T, man. I mean, seriously, it is to a T what happened there. Now, the parallels actually go way beyond that, because just like now, they're going to throw us in a fiery furnace.
Hey, peace if possible, truth at all costs.
Truth at all costs, man. Yeah, peace as much as you can, but not at the cost of truth. And so, well, how do you feel about saying the Pledge of Allegiance?
For the last, high school football game, everybody takes their hats off, salutes the flag. I haven't done it in a while. I think I've taken my hat off a few times just to not rouse attention, which.
Well, that's peace as much as you can, right? But without.
But
betraying.
I haven't been. I probably have a few times because I really haven't studied it that much. I just kind of had I've heard you talk about it before, and I kind of thought, he's got a point. So I've kind of shied away the last few times from doing it, especially when you're with a bunch of people and half of them don't even care. It's just a high school football game, so you can kind of get away with it.
Yeah, well, you see, I guarantee you, Stone, that what you just said is the same thing the Christians said back in Babylon. They're like, we're not really worshiping this thing. It's just, we're just going along to get along, basically. We're not trying to be, we don't want to stand out. We're not really bowing and
we'll
worship.
bow real quick.
Yeah.
It'll be over. We go back and go. We'll be at church Sunday or whatever.
Do your little bow. Don't try and make a statement. Look, this is a great country, and although we don't believe just like the King Nebuchadnezzar believes,
I'm not actually worshiping it. That's probably what they're thinking.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're thinking. They're saying, well, I'm not actually worshiping it in my heart. I'm just kind of going through the motions to fit in with the society. Well, listen, that's why this podcast and this talk is so important. That's exactly how sheep are led off a cliff to their death. Is that exact thing. I'm just going along because I don't, I'm not really worshiping it, but I'm just.
I want to be able to live my peaceful life, and if I don't comply to their rules, well, then I don't live a peaceful life.
Yes.
They're going to kill me.
And that's we may justify ourselves, like you just said. I'm just trying to be at peace. No, you're not. You don't want to lose your job. That's the problem.
Or lose your head.
Yeah, you don't want to have to pay the price, in a sense. You don't want to have to sort of pay the consequences of what it would take, all the extra hard work, if you don't get all the benefits of Babylon. Man, there was a tremendous amount of benefits of living in Babylon. It was the wealthiest place on earth. And they took care of their own. And so there's so many parallels there.
But you know what's the crazy thing? Out of everybody in that entire city, we only read about 3 who did not bow down.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the shape America's in. You would take all of America, and you may only get 3,000 or 3. I don't know how many people's in America, but 330 million.
330 million people,
Yeah.
but yeah, you probably would only get a few thousand. Mm-hmm. And even then,
This stuff is something seriously to think about. Like, I know last year I had not really studied any, and I kind of didn't carry the way. I just knew I'm not going to salute it.
Yeah.
But this year, I don't think I may take my hat off, but that's as far as it's going.
Yeah, I do. For me personally, I keep bumping my microphone. I have not stood or pledged allegiance. I haven't stood for the national anthem or pledged allegiance in probably 7 years, maybe even 8 years. But I don't try and be seen.
Don't try to make a scene if you can help it.
If I can kind of hide, or the last time we went to the local dirt track and they did the national anthem thing, I just pretended I was really distracted with my kids. I don't remember. I think I had pretended they had dropped something or something. I was just trying to pretend I was really busy, that I just couldn't do it, because I really don't want to draw attention to myself, and I also don't want to offend the other people, and they don't know that it really is a spiritual reason that I'm not. It's not a rebellious reason.
Because honestly, nowadays, if you don't stand for the flag or you don't take your head off, they're not ever going to think of it as a spiritual reason. They're going to think, oh, he's anti-America. He would rather he was a Muslim or something.
Yeah, they're not even going to ask. And truthfully, if they did ask, the only thing I could do is say, hey, man, it's an hour-long explanation. How about you watch my podcast or something? Because it literally takes me an hour to explain this. It's in no shape, form, or fashion I'm not trying to make a political statement, man. I don't care nothing about the politics. It's a 100% spiritual thing for me. When I saw that exact same thing, that exact thing, we do. Why is it necessary, Americans? Why is it necessary for you to take your hat off and put your hand on your heart? Why do we have to do that? You must do that. You see, even if you stand, Stone, but you don't put your hand on your hat, if you leave your hat on and you don't put your hand on your heart, in their minds, you're rebelling. You're not being completely obedient to the command. The command is you take your hat off, you put your hand on, and you face the flag. Everybody and the soldiers stand there. Why must we do that? Ask yourself that question, America. Why should we do that? Well, why did they have to do it in Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon? Because the king could look out there and say, whoever doesn't, that's our enemy.
That's a good point.
It was a way to sort them out. That's how he sorted out his own people. He's like, look, we're going to make a command. They're going to do this right here. And all those that don't, that's your next victims right there. Yeah.
Okay, well, he must have had something figured out if he only had 3.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing, too. Now, it is possible that there's others that we just don't know about, right? They maybe they just didn't, they wasn't seen. Maybe they was able to stay at home when this happened or whatever. So there's some good advice for those that if you really don't want to take off your hat and put your hand on your heart and turn to the flag for spiritual reasons, then maybe we should just avoid those public situations, because people will take it wrong. So maybe we should
was to fight you over it.
Yeah, so maybe we should avoid those situations so that we don't end up thrown into the fiery furnace. And here we are going to stick it on.
Yeah, I was going to say, sometimes you can avoid it all the way.
Sometimes you can't. I don't know that was the only 3, but that was the 3 that spotted. But however, let me say this. That was also the only 3 that was delivered out of the fiery furnace. Let's say there was some that The Bible doesn't actually tell us. Those that may have sort of done a quick, let's just do a quick bow. It's not in their hearts. God may have spared them people. I don't know. But we know for a fact that he spared those that said, we will not bow. And I don't think, also, do you think that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were unpatriotic?
I'm assuming they were patriots. They were just
I know they
like
were.
what we said. They were patriots, but they were not supportive of all the sin.
Yes, we can read that whole book of Daniel, and Daniel was a patriotic man in a way. Daniel was a sort of a high servant of the king. I mean, he was a counselor and an advisor to the king, and there was things that Daniel said he wouldn't do. And because of that, Daniel suffered. But it wasn't that he was unpatriotic or whatever. I mean, read the whole account and consider it in your minds, in your spiritual mind, of modern-day United States, man. There was so much that went on there that's so similar that, think about the words, too. You're saying, I pledge
allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. Now, for you people that struggled with grammar, when it says and, we could go back and put, and I pledge allegiance to the republic for which it stands.
That's the real...
For which it stands. If they took that part out of there, you might could get by with it. But when they say for which it stands, what you're actually saying is everything that this country stands for, I stand for.
And as a Christian in today's world, you cannot say that because our country stands for some sick thing. I'm looking at who's in the White House.
If you say it, you're either lying to the country or you're lying to God. Because, you're in the church on Sunday saying, these are my values. And then you're going out here,
pledging
allegiance over here on Monday to these values. You're lying to somebody.
And they're total opposite.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is that phrase, for which it stands. In other words, everything that flag stands for. And the pledge tells us that flag stands for the Republic of America. And at this point, the government, the Republic, the Democratic Republic, that's our governmental system. It's called a Democratic Republic. It stands for things that a Christian can't stand for. You can't. You cannot simultaneously be Christian and supporting abortion, supporting the teaching of evolution in schools, supporting the LGBTQP community. You can't be both. You can't be, which means you have to choose. Either stand with the world and don't go to church on Sunday, or go to church on Sunday and don't stand with the world on Saturday night when the football game comes. And I'm telling you, if you want to find your way to persecution fast, you just sit down when that national anthem plays, and it's coming, boy. I mean...
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got football games. My brother plays varsity. I'm sure I'll be faced with it this year.
Yeah, and the world and even some of the Christians, so-called, will feel 100% justified when they put you under that jail. It'll be Christians.
Because you're a terrorist in their mind.
In their minds, they have no concept that, no, I'm terrified in my soul to bow to Babylon. I can't bow to Babylon, no matter the cost, if it's the cost of my life. And there is more parallels right now between the United States and the Babylon of the Bible than any two places that has ever been, most likely. I mean, it's almost to a T. So it's a matter of life and death for me. I can't do it. And they will not understand that. They'll think, he's a terrorist. And I'm not, man. I pick up people walking down the road that run out of gas or what. I help people every chance I get.
Yeah, well, we would both die for this land and the people.
Yeah, I don't want to sit here and become a fool in boasting, but I work a 40-hour week kind of job, I'm not rich, but I give as much as I can to people. I love people, man. I love the people of our church. I give so much of my time and life to them. I'm a patriot in every way I know how to be, but I can't pledge allegiance to the flag. Especially, I think about my kids. My kids looking at Daddy doing it. Mm-hmm. And knowing by the time that they're 30 years old what this place is going to look like, and they're going to say, my dad pledged allegiance to this place.
I don't have kids, but I'm kind of, in a way you could say, the youth group leader. And so I kind of also have a little bit of a responsibility there.
Yeah, you have a responsibility there, and you got a responsibility because you're the oldest of 9.
And I have a responsibility just being a Christian.
Yeah. And so I hope the people out there understand it. I hope they can see. I hope that you can put on those spiritual glasses for 5 minutes and say, you know what? It's not about political activism. It's not about any of that stuff.
Yeah, I got it caught up in the whole Trump 2020 thing, and I'm really starting to see God is going to use whoever's in there to do his will. I don't know if a Christian should vote. Maybe we should talk about that later. I'm not really against it, but we shouldn't put our hope in our future. We shouldn't think if Donald Trump gets in, we have the next 4 years of peace, because we don't know. He's human.
Yeah.
Anybody in there is human, and it's not a good idea.
Yeah,
we should be putting our faith in Jesus, not the president, because even if he's a good man, we're all corrupted.
Yeah. And as far as the voting thing, no, I don't vote. Just vote with the wisdom of knowing that you're saying, I stand behind this guy. Okay? And so if you can go and vote for that guy in clear Christian conscience, then vote. That's fine. But when you cast your ballot, what that means is I support this man. And so if that man turns around and in the second year of his first term allows abortion and all this kind of stuff, you have to say, man, and I voted for that guy. I helped put him in there. That's why I'm super, 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 super cautious with anybody I vote for.
And
man.
Nowadays, I'm almost to the point where I'm not voting again, because we see what they did last year. You're not even voting. You're just opinion. You're putting your opinion there. So we don't care. Throw it out. We're picking this guy.
And the truth is, honestly, if any of us actually had a vote, we wouldn't have those two candidates up there anyway.
No, because
we're having to vote on the only two people they'll let us vote on, which in the end, they get their way either way, which I'm still not saying I'm against voting, but just,
be careful with it.
Yeah, be careful with it and realize you're voting on the guy who the system has said, we'll let you vote on him. Now, you can say you want him or you don't want him, but you can't actually say who you really want. You can't actually say, hey, I'd love preacher so-and-so to be the president or whatever. You can't say that. No, you can't just vote for whoever you want. Actually, you can. You can write them in, but, they don't ever count them or anything, It's become an irrelevant thing. But let me mention one more thing, and then we can take this. And so we want to look at the future of America.
And the future of Christians living in America, and will persecution ever come to America?
Right. So, I want to get into those things, and so I want to mention this one really quickly. But I want to show one more reason why we need to be very open your Bible app real quick, please, because I don't want to misquote this stuff. Go to Revelation chapter 13.
I got it. You know what verse?
Yeah, go to about verse 8, and just let me see it.
There you go.
Okay. Now, think about what we talked about with Babylon, the Babylon of Nebuchadnezzar, the image and the music, and you had to worship the image or you'd be killed. Now, this is in Revelation chapter 13. This is during the times of, I think all scholars sort of agree, and people who study prophecy, this is the times of the Antichrist and the false prophet being on earth. It's still future to us, most likely, but in very near future. And here, what's interesting is this is sort of the third Babylon talked about. If you've ever read the book of Revelation, you know that you read the judgment of Babylon. It's called the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, and you read how it says, thus with violence shall Babylon be thrown down, and all that kind of stuff. Now, I'm not about to make the case that America is Babylon. I've kind of already made a parallel case there spiritually, but there's three main Babylons talked about in the Bible. The first, the Tower of Babylon, we could say. Then Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon. And then there's this, the Babylon of Revelation. And I want to read something to you. He exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he makes fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. Listen. Saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image should speak and cause. The image speaking, remember, in the old pre-technological Babylon, music played. And when the music played, that caused everybody to bow. That was the rule. You hear this, you hear the music. Well, you hear the speaking, whatever it is. It could even be music. Who knows? Okay, so had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. I'm just going to stop right there. The reason I wanted to point that out is this. This place is referred to in that book, in chapter 17, chapter 18, as Babylon. This sort of future Babylon, a spiritual Babylon. And it's a very similar type of thing. Worship the image or be killed. That's what it said. I mean, I just read it to you. He said that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. That is almost a quote of what Nebuchadnezzar said 2,500 years ago. If you don't bow down to the image, you'll be killed. It's the same thing. And so I'm not at all saying, please don't mistake me for saying this, I'm not at all saying that pledging allegiance is the mark of the beast or anything like that. Not even close, okay? But what I am saying is that at some point we have to start asking ourselves, when is just go along to get along?
When should I draw the line?
Yeah. When does that become I'm in sin? It's not just I'm trying to be at peace, but I'm actually in sin now because I'm choosing worldly convenience and whatever over spiritual conviction. Where do we get off that boat? Because there's a day coming where you better get off of that boat. Well, I mean, the Bible tells us that everyone that takes the mark of the beast goes to hell. You know, it doesn't beat around the bush about it. And so at some point, if our country or whatever, which this is going to be a global thing, you know, wants to, you know, I don't know, give you a chip or, you know, whatever, at some point.
A vaccine.
Yeah, who knows? It could be all kinds of things, you know. It really could. I've thought a lot about it. We're going to save the mark of the beast thing for another show. Okay? But here's the thing. If you're a Christian, get your next thing ready. I'm really about to get off of this soapbox. But if you're a Christian living in this great land, at what point are you going to say, I can no longer in my conscience say I pledge allegiance to the values that flag represents? What will it take? Because that flag has already adopted into its value system abortion and homosexuality and all of these other types of terrible sins, oppression of Christian people, which we're about to get into. So if you're a Christian, when are you going to stop? Where are you going to draw the line? That's all I'm asking. I want you to think about it. Because you may call me unpatriotic today, but if you're a Christian, there's a day coming very soon for you that you're going to say, hey, I can no longer do that either. And your day of persecution is going to come pretty quickly, probably, because it'll still be the case. That's the one thing you're going to get in trouble over. All right. What else you got?
Well, we're going to talk for a minute. We've been going about 40 minutes.
Well, that's...
Yeah, I took off a few.
Okay, yeah.
The future of America, where is America headed? Like, could America become like China, run by Communist Party, which I think in a way we already are.
Yeah, just, you know, they're under a different name, but
yeah. And will Christians suffer persecution? You know, 309 million Christians suffer high levels of persecution in the world. I think I got that information off of Open Doors Ministry.
Say the number again. Millions.
309 million.
Yeah, that's basically the whole population of the United States, but, you know, spread
around the world. Like, you know, and obviously, like, number one, I think North Korea. I believe number two might have been Afghanistan. And China is snowballing ahead of all them. It just ain't got that as bad yet. But America, I'm assuming it ain't even on the top 30 list. But will it? Do you think we're heading in a direction, our nation, to where they will end up banning the Bible, where Christians will have to have church in secret? Will there be a time in America where if you say you're a Christian, you either better be ready to be killed or go to prison?
That's a lot of questions. it makes me think we need to do a totally separate episode on the rapture question. But I believe that the church will suffer at the hands of the false church. Our country.
Yes, I agree. I agree
Yeah.
very much.
Our country, yes. But who's it going to be that's calling and reporting us in? And who is it going to be that's beating
It's going to be our own brothers and sisters.
Yeah, it's the false church. It's the terrorism.
We've already kind of seen how quick somebody will turn on you if you're not wearing a mask. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
and that's just as basic as it gets. Even now, Fauci, they've said he's got, I heard today actually, he's got emails. A ton of his emails are leaked, thousands of them. And one of the emails said, he said, I guess the particles that you breathe out, mask or two, there's something more than just it's protection, because he said himself, they don't protect you. The particles go right through the mask.
Yeah, we need to do a whole other show
On vaccines and
some
the
of
coronavirus, yeah.
And the propaganda that has accompanied this whole thing. This has become more than a pandemic. This
There's
has
something-
become a
there's
global
some- there's-
stage.
yeah, there's
of
something there.
Experiment. That's
Yeah.
And anyone, that's not a conspiracy, man. I mean, if you've been alive for a year, you can figure that out at this point. Sure, I'm not. Well, I don't even want to get into it. I don't even because we need to lay a totally different groundwork for
Let
that.
me give you a Bible verse.
Okay.
2 Timothy 3, verse 12 says, Yea, and all that will live godly in Christ Jesus shall suffer persecution. There's another one, 1 John 3:13. Marvel not, my brethren, if the world hates you. We may not be suffering persecution yet, but it's becoming more and more obvious that even people in America, the worldly people, I'm saying, they're starting to hate Christians. It's just not got to the point where they can do nothing about it. I saw a picture. I'm pretty sure it was in America. I'm not 100% on that. It was like a protest. And somebody was holding up a sign and it said, if Jesus comes back, we'll kill him again. That's kind of the state we're in.
Wow.
And here's the thing. I believe they would try to if they thought they could.
Yeah, no doubt about it. If he died once for the sacrifice of sin, once for all time. But they'd kill him twice if he'd let him. You know, Stone, something you made me think of is, let me ask you this question. You got two people
Yeah.
sitting in front of you. You're the president. You tell one of them, you can say whatever you want to say. You tell one of them, you can't say anything at all. Is that persecution?
Yeah, it's persecution.
Okay, so Christians
It's not equal rights.
That's right.
They all want to shout equality, but they actually don't want to stand for it.
Yeah, and Christian persecution, we're already having it, Stone. Persecution begins long before it gets physical, long before they're invading your home or anything like that. No, it begins by shutting your mouth up. That's how it starts. And you and I both know that now here, I can take my cell phone and I can record us saying whatever we want to say, and YouTube will take it down or whatever, or they may leave it up there. And so in that sense, we have that sort of freedom. But when I'm saying you're the president of the United States and there's two people before you, he's going to say to this other LGBT crowd, he's going to say, you say whatever you want to say, man. We'll even cast a rainbow over the White House. You know they did that.
Yeah, they lit it up.
Yeah. We'll put a rainbow on the White House and all this kind of stuff. You just come up here and you just say whatever you want to say. You do whatever you want to do. All eyes of America are on you. You have the full support of the military. We all just love y'all to death. You just do whatever you want to do. But the Christian man, don't open your mouth. Don't say it. That's persecution already. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we have to go down the sidewalk or down the street in our own country knowing that we can't fully express the people that we are without being punished. That's another level
Go
of
to
persecution.
somewhere like Portland, Oregon, or
Yeah.
somewhere like that, and wear a shirt that maybe says there's only two genders, abortion is murder, Jesus is king, and I bet you money you might be wishing maybe I shouldn't have wore this shirt.
Oh, yeah. I bet you more than money, man. I guarantee it. And so you'll be beat down. And when the cops are called out or whatever, they're going to say, well, man, you shouldn't have wore that shirt. But wait a minute. The stinking LGBTQ crowd that was over there beating the snot out of it, they had a shirt on too. They said that they can marry whoever they want to marry and sleep with whoever they want to sleep with.
Reverse the roles.
That's what I'm saying.
And the Christians beat up the gay person or queer person or whatever.
Oh, they'd murder us in the street.
Yeah, they would. If not, you'd go to jail with a life sentence or probably the electric chair if they. Yeah,
that's my point. Is just see it. See it. It's there to be seen. If I wore a shirt that says Jesus is the only way, repent of your sin or perish. The Bible teaches against this LGBTQ stuff. If I wear a shirt that says that, I will be silenced in any way that they can. But they can wear a shirt that says we'd kill Jesus if he come again. You know, Christians are the scum of the earth. They can wear a shirt that says whatever, and nobody is going to say a thing to them.
People are going to be walking by saying, like your shirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
America's in a lot worse shape than most people think it is.
It's in terrible shape, man. It's in such terrible shape that, I mean, honestly, just like that, a switch could be flipped, and the Christians who hold to real biblical values will be hauled off, man. Just take one false, not even a real, somebody that's posing as a Christian that goes in and shoots up a
You know
gay
what this
bar or
reminds
something
me
like
of?
that, and they would what?
George Floyd.
Yeah.
How
Exactly.
It was
ignited it.
Yeah, it happened. And it was terrible. I'm not.
Oh, yeah, it was,
I'm
yeah.
absolutely
No, yeah.
not for those cops.
No, absolutely not. Police violence is absolutely no.
But there's more black people killed by black people in the streets and gangs and stuff. But here's the thing: the media took it, they twisted it to fit their narrative and how they wanted. If they did that with Christians, yeah, we better look out, because we saw how much. Riots, and they burnt down cities over this.
Yeah.
Imagine if it was Christians and the government. Yeah. Our government is already like. That's one thing that disgusts me to hear Joe Biden talk about being a Christian. I'm like,
he said something the other day, man. Now, I seen this on a news update thing on my phone, and I didn't actually look into it to verify it. So if I'm wrong, please forgive me. I should have probably researched it. But it was a video. Actually, I think I seen it on YouTube. You know, when you scroll through, it automatically plays videos. And so I clicked on this. And he said the most lethal threat in the United States right now is white supremacists. And he was sitting there with like a panel. There was like 4 or 5 people. Where do you even come up with that, man?
Well, let's be honest. White people are facing racism more than black people in a lot of ways.
That may be the case. I don't want to get into it right now. I just know this much. That's total lies. That's total propaganda, man. I mean, and for the record, I'm the least racist person that I know of, and you are too, man. I believe that God has made of all men, of one blood, of all men, nations dwell on earth, or whatever it says in the book of Acts. You know, I'm a believer, man, that God made every man in His own image. That the black man shares just as much as the image of God as the white man, the red man, the yellow man. I mean, I know there's some cultural differences, and there's things I wish white people wouldn't do. There's things I wish Oriental people wouldn't do. There's things I wish black people wouldn't do. But, you know, I would lay down my life for a black man just as quick as I would a white man. And I mean, I'm telling the truth.
We know the thing now is stop Asian hate. That's the big thing. It's starting to pick up a little bit of speed.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I do wish Christians, because Christians can be unbiblical with their way of thinking sometimes, and I wish they would realize, man, the difference genetically between you and the black man is a thing called melanin, one pigment. You know, I mean, good Lord, get over your stinking racism. But anyways, no, we're not racists. But the idea that white supremacy is the most lethal thing in this country right now, that's 100% propaganda. Now, that's why I say, like George Floyd, that's a perfect example. If we have one George Floyd event that turns people, sways them against Christians, dude, I'm telling you, it's close, man. It's close. We're
just
close.
A few years away, possibly.
Yeah, well. Look at it. Don't look at it as a matter of years. Look at it as a matter of events.
That's a good point.
You see what I'm saying? We're probably less than 3 major events away from being hauled off, killed, whatever, driven out into the woods. Well, all 3 of those events could happen literally by the end of this year. We could be fleeing for our lives.
Well, we did see how much in 1 year with the coronavirus, George Floyd, how America was basically on fire.
Right.
And the government.
That's a very good way to put it, yeah.
The government and the media, they was all pushing that. You get everybody behind Christians against Christians, pit them against them, and I can see how it wouldn't be long.
It would, yeah. And so those 3 events could happen this year. So we need to live in such a way as to be ready. Those 3 events may not happen for the next 20 years. What are those 3 events? Well, you know, you could take another pandemic type scenario, and they've already laid the groundwork for, if you continue to have church, we're going to bust your doors down, okay?
Yeah, it's starting to happen in Canada now.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, you shared with me a video the other day. And so that's kind of what I'm saying. Okay, so we've been through stage 1.
I mean, we already at one point had to quit having church for, well, I think we only missed 2 or 3 weeks, but because there was people in the church who couldn't really get involved for legal reasons, we just stopped having church for a few weeks because we couldn't have more than 10 people in one room.
Yeah, we've already dealt with it. And so
for a virus that is literally probably less dangerous
save
than
that
the flu.
Save that for the other one.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't.
But all I'm saying is, okay, so you take another pandemic event, right? And then the Christians maybe say, look, maybe the government says, listen, we learned our lesson the last time. The government is going to say this, which is, well, I'll save so much for the next. But let's say the government says, we learned our lesson the last time. This time we're making it official right now, right off the bat, no church for a year. Because we have studies that show churches and church attendance was one of the number one things that kept this stinking COVID going.
Not to mention, more than likely, a lot of the church people like us, are also anti-vaxxers.
Yeah.
And so when they say, well, you got a bunch of anti-vaxxers who don't believe in wearing masks, anti-government, in one place, it's bad things are going to happen, and you get the media behind that, nowadays, even church people, they believe everything CNN tells them, and so they're going to go along with it.
Yeah, well, that's kind of all I'm saying, man, is the events, give it 1 or 2 more events, and by the 3rd event, or maybe 3 events, and we're in serious trouble, man. I talked to my wife about it basically once or twice a week, of always being mentally ready to live by faith in such a way that we never have.
And another big problem is the Christians, people who really proclaim that they're Christians, but they don't live by it, they're going to be still proclaiming Christianity while pointing to the government saying, hey, I know where they're having church this week. Go stop them. Mm-hmm. And that's the sad thing, our own brothers and sisters.
Well, we already seen it happen.
Yeah.
With the COVID experiment, which let's not forget, we're asking the question, where's America going to be in the future? Well, we're answering the question because we've already seen it. But with the COVID thing, yeah, I seen a daughter betray her own family because they met at a baptism. And there was more than 25 people there. And she went out where they were at and took pictures of them and posted it on Facebook and told basically the cops where they were at and said, hey, y'all need to do something about this. And it was her own family there. But she did it for whatever reason she did it. But yeah, and she claims to be Christian. That was my point. She also claims to be a Christian. And so you're right. That's like I said, the false church. And to the world, it'll be like, the world, everybody that doesn't live in the United States will believe you're an extremist because they'll say, well, look, even his own brothers and sisters, his own Christian brothers and sisters are against him. Even his own denomination, the Baptist or the Methodist or the Presbyterians, they're even saying that he's wrong in this. So to the world, the people that don't live here, the people that are not in the know, they'll think, well, you got what you deserved. But in reality, all it is you're standing for biblical values, man. You was about to say something. Go ahead. Was you going to say something?
I was going to say, I didn't mean to cut you short earlier, but when you said he's talking to your wife about living by faith, that really is something we should take serious and be ready because even if persecution doesn't come to us, like we saw with the COVID, we've seen with the gas shortage, the power grid could be knocked out next, and we cannot have power for 3 weeks and no gas and be running out of food. So I don't know what to do, and most people, probably more people around here, but a lot of people across the world, or across America, they don't just have a gun they can go grab and go kill a squirrel. And even then, when you got 10 people in one house, or I live in like a community, and so there's 40 people, 10 squirrels, that's not going to...
ain't going to feed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are going to... I don't really know, man, how exactly life will be in America in the near future. But I know that anyone who kind of has eyes to see, we can all agree, even the atheists out there can agree, the Christian man and family, man, woman, and child, whatever, in this country today is in a totally different spot than the Christian was here in 1950. We're in a totally different, it's a totally different country at this point. And I think even the atheists can look out and realize the Christian is they are pushing us out of the country as much as they can, pushing our philosophy or pushing our ideals or pushing our doctrine or pushing our book, silencing us as much as they can.
And you want to see evidence of that. They took Christianity out of schools. That is that's all you got to do.
They took it out of everything, Stone. They took it out of the workplace. They took it out of the movies. They took it out of commercials. They took it out of Walmart. I mean, Walmart they do still sell Bibles. And that's just because the Bible's still the number one selling book in the world, and they're doing it for the money. But the symbolism, the crosses, and all that kind of stuff, they took it out of pretty much everywhere, and they replaced it with, all of the things of the world. And so, man, the days are coming. Jesus said it himself, it's going to be a time of trouble such as had not been since the beginning of the world. And if you look at what Jesus said in chapter 24 of the book of Matthew, and you compare that to chapter 6 of the book of Revelation, the fifth seal says this. He says, I saw the fifth seal was opened or whatever, and I heard the voice of the martyrs crying under the altar in heaven, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on earth? And this is what God says back to him. He says, Rest yet for a little season, till your fellow servants should be killed such as you are. That's what God says. There's going to be a mass murdering of Christians. They don't believe it. They don't believe it'll ever happen. Oh, not in my lifetime. Yeah, not here, not in America.
And if they do believe it, and they may, and I've seen this with a lot of teenagers especially, it scares them to think about it. But if you really get to where you need to be spiritually, and I am not claiming to be there because I'm not there yet. But I do believe if you get to where you need to be spiritually, you're not going to be terrified of those thoughts. You're going to be, I don't want to say looking forward to it because nobody looking forward to going through that, but yearning for the day when you can leave this sin behind, leave this body and go spend eternity with God. And dying a martyr is the most honorable death you can die. It kind of, at the very least, it takes away the fear. You're like, well, if it's going to come in my life, let it come right now.
And what you said, Stone, that's what's happening now. I really believe God uses the tribulation, so to speak, what we're going through now, even what we've already seen with the pandemic stuff and the persecution that's coming, it's helping you get ready. It's helping you to get ready for that day to say, you said, I'm not there spiritually right now. I'm not even close or whatever. Well, you're not. I'm not either. None of us really are. But this is helping us. Why? This is making us live with an everyday awareness of, hey, this thing's temporary and it's going to come to an end really quickly. And we're going to pay the ultimate price for our faith really quickly. And so because of this slow squeezing down, it's like God has given us sort of a time to be mentally ready. In the book of Revelation, twice it says, these are they which loved not their lives unto the death. The people that are saved, the people that are in heaven, they didn't. It's what you said. You love heaven more than you love here. That's the place that you're actually getting to in your mind. And as tribulation closes in upon us, you get to the point to where
you're just ready to, you can leave it all behind.
You're like, for the first time in your life, you are actually praying, Lord, please come. I really do want you to come right now. Bring an end to all this. Thy kingdom come.
Take me home.
Yeah, take me home. Like Luke says, lift up your head. It says, when you see that, I shouldn't have quoted it because I don't even remember what it says now.
I'll put it up on the screen.
But it says something about lift up your head for your redemption draweth nigh. And it's people that were they've been hanging their head through all this stuff that they're going through. And he says, when you see these signs begin to come to pass, lift up your head. Lift up your head. Look up, because it's actually almost over. And so, we that are going to face Christian hardship, so to speak, it is preparing us in such a way to actually look forward to heaven in a way that we never really have, if we're going to be honest. It's causing us to desire the return of Christ in a way that we never really have. And we're only in the very beginning of it. But I do believe that by the time we get to the heart of it, you're a young man, Stone. There is nobody watching this that even thinks that this place will even be called America in 50 years. It'll be a different name. You're definitely going to face it. And so, and I think I probably will too, but it doesn't matter. Either way, tribulation is getting the heart ready to meet God, and it's helping us to live by faith. And like, when the children of Israel were taken out of Egypt, and they were chased by Pharaoh, he was trying to kill every single one of them, and they were driven out into a wilderness, but God provided manna, provided water, provided.
There's a lot you could learn from that story.
Shoes didn't wear out, clothes didn't wear out. You know, a lot of things God can do for the people that follow God with all their heart and faith. And so,
Well, we've been talking about an hour, but one more thing.
Okay, yeah.
There's the Bible verse. I can't really remember. I don't want to misquote it. I'll put it right here. But it says something about a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself from it. For anybody out there who's, I mean, if they're not taking this seriously, I mean, you just need to look around and just see that it is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And you need to start preparing for it. And I don't mean prepping. We didn't talk about. I mean spiritually prepping, getting your heart where you need to be, drawing closer to the Lord as you need to be, because He's the only thing that's ever going to get us through this. And even here's something I think about a lot is even if I never face any persecution ever, I've only got on average 50 years left. Mm-hmm. And that's going to go by like that, and it's going to be over. Why not just give this life to the Lord? Because it's so short. I mean,
I agree.
It really is so short.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off. Let me say this, and you can go back to it. I was talking to my wife on the porch yesterday, and she was like, "How long do you really think we got?" And I said, "Well, I said it could be 15, 20 years. I don't know." I said, "But at the most, me and you's only got 30 anyway." You know what I mean? At most, I've only got 30 anyway. So whether or not the whole stinking country collapses, because even if the world don't end, I believe this country is going to collapse in less than 10 years, man. But whether or not it does, I've only got about 30 years anyway, because I'll be 70 years old or right around there. And, for my family record, 70 is about all we get, man. And
life expectancy, last time I checked, it may be different now, but it's like 73.
I think, 72 for man, 73, something like that, and like 74, 75 for women. Women typically live 2 or 3 years older. But, yeah, whether it ends in 15 years or 20, hey, I'm going to be dead in 30 no matter what. So, yeah, why would I? And that's something I did want to say, so let's segue into it. Let me just say this real fast. Why would I trade anything for the mark of the beast? I'm going to die. It's not going to prolong my life in any meaningful way, and that's what you have to realize. The reason I say that is this. Read the Bible. The mark of the beast is an economic decision. Really, what card are they playing to try and force you to take it? Well, if you don't take it, you can't buy or sell anymore.
Yeah.
That's an economic thing.
Can't get food, can't go to the bank.
Probably can't get a
gas.
job.
Yeah, job. You probably can't even drive, if we're being honest, because, they already kind of laying the groundwork for that with the...
Yeah, with the whole, the essentials, non-essentials, got to have it. Yeah. So all I'm really getting at is this, man. The same reason the people bowed to Nebuchadnezzar's image, right? The same reason that it's talking about the image in the, bound to the image in Revelation 13 or whatever. It's all connected to that one thing. Are you going to live by faith for God to provide your sustenance, your living, or are you going to live by faith in government to provide it in your own hand? Because that's the whole pressure. You got to take the mark, man. If you don't take the mark, you can't get groceries. You see what I'm saying? And so, yes, in that sense, it literally could be a vaccine. It could be. It could take upon many forms, because all it really is a means of controlling your economic situation. Well, let's save that for another time.
One more thing. Closing thought. The American dream. You look around and you see people, they work their whole life, or most of their life, 50 or 60, till they can retire and live the next 10, maybe 15 years easy going. Without God in the picture, what kind of life is that? You work hard all your life, and then you got 15 years to kick back and relax. And a lot of times when they kick back and relax, they die. Mm-hmm. If I knew my life, if that was all I had, that was my only, I wouldn't. If that was my only focus in life, the only thing that drives me, I wouldn't. That's not enough for me. That's not fulfilling. It just doesn't do nothing.
Yeah, and
it's foolish. It's like the guy who, I think we mentioned this verse in the Prepper podcast or self-defense one. It's like the guy who works and builds new barns and has a great harvest, and then he dies that night. Don't get caught up in the American dream. Get caught up in the heavenly dream.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. That's a good way to say it, man. the heavenly dream, and the heavenly dream ain't a dream. It's a promise. So get caught up in the heavenly promise, because you're right. It's senseless. It's senseless to work hard for 65 years of your life only to hopefully enjoy the last 10. Make it to 75 years old. So they just slave themselves to death for 65 years. I'm not saying don't work, but I am saying what you said. The whole mindset of, that last 10 years, though. That last 10 years, it's going to be a good 10 years. When God has said, give me one day a week and I'll make your whole 70 years meaningful. Your whole time on earth. Your kingdom's not of this world. You're citizens of a heavenly country. Lay up for yourself treasures in heaven, not here. And we just don't do that.
And what people don't realize, too, is you can have 70 of what the world would call the happiest. You could party, be just filthy rich. Every car you ever want to be married to you, the most perfect person, and you die lost.
Yeah, you lost it all.
And let's just say you got saved on your deathbed, and you didn't die lost. All that life was worthless. Yeah. Then you got some guy, maybe he's been homeless, maybe he's been persecuted, maybe his whole family's left him. And I bet you money in his deathbed, if he sticks with the Lord, he's going to feel more fulfilled he's going to look back and say, it was a really tough life, but I see God using me in these situations.
Yeah, man.
I see the Lord working. And he's going to be able to die and say, God used me. Mm-hmm. And that is probably a peace of mind that the world just will never be able to offer.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I believe, history speaks for itself. People on their deathbed never say, I wish I made more money. Oh, I wish I'd have bought that car before I died. No, they all say, I wish I'd have done something with my life. I wish I'd have told her I loved her. I wish I'd have forgiven that person. Oh, I wish I would have went and helped with the homeless food drive. Oh, I wish I'd have done. They live their whole life caught up in that serving the flesh, and then they get down to the moments where they actually stop and think about it, and they say, I lived a meaningless life. And the problem is they're listening to it, and they're like, yeah, that sounds good. They don't even know how to get out of the system that they're locked in. They're so embedded in it, And it's a step of faith. That's really it, man. It's not. We're not saying just quit your job and all that, but start doing something for the Lord, and He'll make a way. Well, Stone, man, I honestly feel like we need to just talk about America again next week, maybe, because we didn't even scratch the surface of so many other issues that's going on right now. Whether or not we will, I don't know, but we've been talking for over an hour, and so give me some, close it out. By the way, we did get Spotify up and running yet. We just haven't loaded the audios. By the next podcast, I will have that ready for y'all.
And we will make a 2-minute video showing you how to get on Spotify and access it. And you can turn your phone off and listen to it. It doesn't drain the battery like YouTube does.
Yeah. Okay. Now, because of our technical difficulty and our time off, this heavy stuff that we talked about was already a long time ago in our minds. But they just watched it all in one sitting, hopefully.
We are not anti-American.
That's what I was about to say. Let's say it one more time.
We are patriotic. We love old America. We love the land. We love the people. But we hate what America now stands for. What else is there to say? We are pro-veteran. And
yeah,
you should see my bedroom. I have the American flag. I have a military flag. I have Don't Tread on Me flags. Come and take it. AR-15 flags.
You got American flag shirts, American flag hats.
Yeah, I've wore one in the podcast.
I've never questioned that you love this country.
I carry a gun everywhere I go, and yeah.
Yeah, I've never questioned that, And it's just remember what we said. It is our patriotism that drives our so-called fanaticism.
Because we see them destroying our country, and we hate it.
Yeah, if you built a house and you loved it, and then you see people coming and they don't care about it.
Graffitiing all over it and just dumping water in the floors and just ruining it.
Yeah.
You're going to be irate, and you're going to want to fight them to bring the house back to what it used to be. Yeah. That's the only way we will die for this country, is to bring it back to what
to bring it back.
Or to protect at least
amazing,
or at the very least
place that was inhabited by Christians who had come here for refuge in a way. So we have such an amazing, truly amazing history, man. The work that went into founding this, and it just is a heartbreaker where it's at. But nevertheless, please, don't hate us. If you see us not taking our hat off and putting our hand on our heart, just know it's because we love Jesus Christ more than life itself, and we're not going to betray. For
which it stands.
Yeah, exactly. Because we stand for Christ and what He stands for. And that'll always be the case. We'll see y'all.